Next up, multiple arguments. So we can define functions that expect more than one argument to be passed in. So not just person, but maybe it's first name and last name, for example. And to make that work, we just need to tell our function when we define it that there's more than one parameter that we want to work with. So let's do first name, comma, last name. And that's kind of it. We define our two parameters here. We separate them by a comma. But what's most important to understand is that everything is decided by order. So if I pass in two arguments to greet, like this, and I do something like, I don't know, George Clooney, right? George, oh my God, Gerog, George, comma, Clooney. Is there an EY? Is it just, I don't know. Let's say it's like that. That would be first name and that would be last name. And that makes sense to us, in just terms of language and English. George is a first name and Clooney is usually a last name. But that is not what JavaScript cares about. It cares about the order. George comes first, so it's matched to first name. Clooney comes second, so it's matched to last name. So if I switch them up and did Clooney, comma, George, inside of this function, first name would hold the value of Clooney and last name would be George. So if I wanted to do something, I don't know, what should we do here? How about hey there, first name, and then we'll use the initial of your last name. So hey there, George C, or hey there, Colt S, or something like that. So we'll do first name. Then how would I get the first letter of the last name? I would do last name, square bracket, 0, just like that. And then let's put a period there maybe so it looks like an initial. And then let's try calling this. So save it, refresh my page. We'll greet Elvis, and then I think that's how you spell Presley. And we get, hey there, Elvis P. Cool, so that's working. Let's try another one. Just remember, if I did it this way, Presley, Elvis. This is going to be first name, that's last name. It's all about the order. So we get, hey there, Presley E, which I do know somebody with the first name of Presley. So I guess it's not that ridiculous. But of course, usually we're not doing something as simple as printing out, first name and then the first initial of your last name. Often there's a huge difference between one argument and another. They might not even be the same type. We might actually write a function that, expects a string and then a Boolean and a number. It's not that common, but it is something we can do. So that order really does matter. So let's try an example that's a little bit more complicated. Let's write a function, we'll call it repeat. And I want repeat to accept a string like hi. And then I want it to accept a number like 3. And then I want it to print out hi, 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 like that. So it should accept a string and then a number and repeat that string n times, and just print out a single line. So how do we do this? Well, we need to define our function. We'll call it repeat. And then we need two different parameters. And again, the order matters. So the first one, let's go with a name that makes sense, like str. I wouldn't do string, but probably str, or message, or whatever you want. Let's just go with str. And then after that, let's go with num, or you could do repetitions. It's a bit long. So maybe just num times. And then in here, how do we repeat a string num times? Well, there is the repeat method built in to strings. We're going to ignore that. So we're not going to use that. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way using a loop. So we're going to loop num times. So whatever that is, we can just do a for let I equals 0. I is less than num times, then I plus. And let's do something very simple like console.log hi. And let's just see what happens if I call repeat, whatever string, we're not using it, 5 times. We should see hi 5 times, and we do. Chrome collapses it for me into just a single line, but we see 5. All right, so instead of printing out hi, what I want to do is take this string and concatenate it 5 times. So that whatever our str is, let's say it's just a letter, or how about just a $sign, we end up with 5 or 10 or whatever $signs in a row. So I'm going to add them all up into a string. So let's make a new string. We'll call this result, and it will start as an empty string. And then in here, each time through the loop, we will just do a result plus equals str, which is the string that's been passed in. So whatever that is, let's say it's a $sign. We start with our result as empty. we loop a certain number of times, 10 times. Every time through, we add onto the result string with our $, whatever str holds. And then at the very end, let's console.log results and see what we end up with. Okay, so let's call repeat. Sure, we'll do a $, and then 5. And we get $5. All right, if I do something else like I love my chickens, and I repeat that, let's add a space after that 10 times. There we go. I love my chickens, I love my chickens, I love my chickens, and so on. All right, so I just wanted to show you that we can define a function that expects different types of values to be passed in. So a string and then a number. And if I mix that order up, it's problematic, right? If I did it the other direction, repeat 10 comma, I love my chickens, what happens? Well, it does not look very good. It looks like nothing was printed out. Why? Well, because our loop never actually ran. We had let I equal 0, I less than, and then I was supposed to be less than a string. Well, that's going to prevent the loop from actually executing at all. This will never run. So we're just console.logging an empty string, and that's exactly what we see here. So that order does matter. Okay, so that's multiple arguments. We can have more than 2 arguments if we wanted to, and often we will. All we need to do is separate them, separate the list of parameters by commas inside our function definition. The order matters, blah, 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 as I've said a million times. It's really the exact same pattern. So whatever parameter name you define first, that will hold the first value. The second one will hold the second value. The third one will hold the third, and so on. And I should mention, we don't have to pass in our second argument, just like we didn't have to pass in a first name here. Let's leave one of them off and see what happens. So if I call greet, let's just do it the right way first. Let's do Arson Banger, like that. Hey there, Arson W. Now, if I instead left off his last name, and we just did this instead, we get an error. But why are we getting that error? It says cannot read property 0 of undefined. So the error is not because we didn't provide, or it's not from JavaScript yelling at us about missing an argument. It's instead the result of last name being undefined. So we made it through this hurdle. It's just that this is a problem. We can't do undefined square bracket 0. So I just want to be clear there, right? We can ignore arguments or just not pass them in. JavaScript doesn't care until that argument is used in a way in the code that could cause an error. All right, so I'm going to stop here. We can have multiple arguments, and that's kind of what we just saw. Bye.